Hello everyone, this is Sam here with another contest video. I know I've done quite a few over the last few videos, and that's just how it falls. And I specifically wanted to do this contest. I don't always jump on contests unless they're folks that like I've been following, and like, if I see that there's a contest going from somebody that I don't communicate with that much. Um, I don't always jump on it. I'll be the first to admit it. But for this one, I definitely wanted to jump on it because it is by one of my favorite folks here on YouTube. It is Robert over at Robert's on My Turntable. If you don't know Robert, check him out. He's one of my several Canadian friends. I've seemed to strike up the friendships of many of the Canadians in the vinyl community here, and I'm loving it. I love having um, friends in different countries. Folks in Canada and the UK. It's been really cool, and here in the United States as well, across the country. But Robert, I've actually had several interactions with. Him and I are on many of the live streams over on the Canadian Stud Muffin channel with Larry and Glenn Kellaway from the basement. And Robert loves his classic rock. He loves prog rock. He just did a video talking about Johnny Cash. He loves the Beatles as well, but really hard rock seems to be his forte. He likes Clutch, Ghost, a lot of the modern rock, heavy rock, and that sort of thing. But Robert has a contest going right now to push his channel over 700 subscribers, and I believe he's already done it at the time of me filming this. But I wanted to jump on the contest, and I apologize for going out of camera. I always put my records and CDs where I can't reach them. But Robert has a cool idea for a contest. He wants us to show albums that were influential in our teenage years. 5 albums, and I picked 5. I didn't pick compilations, even though there are a few compilations out there that really got me into artists. So, like, for example, I have a compilation by the Beach Boys that I listened to a lot as a teenager, but I didn't include it. I wanted to go with albums, like true studio albums. So these aren't in any particular order, Robert. And again, subscribe to Robert's on My Turntable. Let's get them to 750, 800. In no particular order, just the way that I have them stacked up. The first is Full Moon Fever by Tom Petty. It's the first, you all know this album. It's the first solo album by Tom Petty, produced by Jeff Lynne and Mike Campbell with Tom Petty. It's, the breakthrough solo album by Tom Petty, if you can call anything that Tom Petty did breakthrough. Everything that he did was a hit. This one is almost like a greatest hits. You have Free Fallin' opening it out. You have I Won't Back Down, Love Is a Long Road, Facing the Crowd, Running Down a Dream. You have the Bird song, Feel a Whole Lot Better, You're So Bad, Depending on You, the Apartment song, All Right for Now, A Mind with a Heart of Its Own, and then Zombie Zoo. This is the record that really pushed me into Tom Petty beyond Free Fallin'. I bought this album because I loved I Won't Back Down, and I loved You're So Bad and Running Down a Dream, of course. But when I heard this, I remember hearing Feel a Whole Lot Better, and I was like, wow, he really wrote a great song that sounds like the Byrds. Come to find out, it was a Byrd song, and it got me into the Byrds after hearing this song. And of course, I knew Jeff Lynne, I knew the Heartbreakers, but I didn't know the Heartbreakers to the extent of knowing their deep cuts. And so by purchasing this album, it got me into a whole nother world. And now, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers are my favorite American band. So Full Moon Fever, I know exactly what year it was that I listened to this. I know it would have had to have been around um, 2008, maybe 2009, 2010, which would have put me just starting into high school, the first couple of years of high school. So, Full Moon Fever. Next, this album, Born and Raised, I've mentioned this in a few videos. It's by John Mayer, came out in 2012, and I always associate this album with January. I remember I got it for Christmas from a cousin of mine, and I remember listening to this album on New Year's Day, visiting some family at a get together, and it's just a great. I mean, if you, again, I've talked about this album 100 times, but if you love, um, Laurel Canyon kind of music, like the stuff of Neil Young, The Byrds, Joni Mitchell, Bob Dylan, um, this has it. I mean, Crosby, Stills and Nash. This album has Crosby and Nash on the title track, Born and Raised, singing background vocals. Um, it's got some influences, Neil Young, Bob Dylan, Joni Mitchell. Just a great, great album, and this really got me into John Mayer, because again, I heard John Mayer on the radio playing, Your Body is a Wonderland, or Daughters, which are fine songs, but um, John Mayer is a songwriter. This is the album that did it for me. So Born and Raised is number 2. Number 3, Abbey Road by the Beatles. I got this album in 2009 when the remixes were coming out at that time. And I want to say I think this was the first Beatles album that I bought after, the one album, but this was the album that started it for me. They're the greatest band that's ever walked the earth. There are times where you might stray from them and think, like, I'm tired of the Beatles, or, I don't want to hear that album again. But then when you give them a second listen, or a third listen, or 50th listen, they always come back around. And if I ever am kind of off my Beatles kick and I'm like, I need to get back in the Beatles again, I'll put in Abbey Road, and I'm like, yeah, that's a killer album. Nothing else to be said about it. It's my favorite Beatles album. Tell me whatever you want about the other albums. Nothing tops Abbey Road. So that's number 3. Number 4, Bob Dylan, Oh Mercy. I got this album, it would have been around 10th or 11th grade in high school. I had a teacher named Jeremy, and he taught me a class. It was a private school, private Christian school, and we had a class where we were analyzing lyrics for, I can't even remember why we were doing it. I don't think it had anything to do with the class. I think he loved music so much. He was just trying to find a reason to play Bob Dylan in class. And the song that he played was Ring Them Bells. And I loved it. I didn't really know Bob Dylan deeply at this point. But I think listening to that song, listening to covers of that song, Ring Them Bells, got me to purchase this album. This was the very first Bob Dylan album that I purchased, if I remember correctly. Well, that's not true. The first Bob Dylan album that I purchased, I believe, was Tempest, which was also monumental. But this was the first album that really got me into Dylan's older catalog. And perfect album. It's got production by Daniel Lanois. You have Political World, Where Teardrops Fall, Everything is Broken, Ring Them Bells, Man in the Long Black Coat, Most of the Time, What Good Am I, Disease of Conceit, What Was It You Wanted, and then finally Shooting Star. It was kind of a little mini resurgence for Dylan after some less than fantastic albums in the 80s. This was the last album Dylan put out in the 80s, 1989. He still does a couple of these songs live, and yeah, thanks Jeremy for getting me into Dylan's back catalog with that song. To wrap it all up, there's kind of a theme with the exception of Dylan. Um, Traveling Wilburys, specifically Volume 1. This is the 3-disc box set, but specifically Volume 1. I can't tell you how important Traveling Wilburys Volume 1 was to me. It got me through. Um, I was starting a new school. I was in 8th grade, so it would have been 2007 into 2008. So I was 13 and 14 years old listening to Volume 1 of the Traveling Wilburys. My parents have a friend who loaned them his copy of this box set, and we played that a lot during our meals together. And I mean, you have a super group like no other. Super group is almost an understatement. You have Petty, Jeff Lynne, George Harrison, Bob Dylan, and Roy Orbison putting together these fantastic rock and pop songs. The opening track, Handle with Care. You have Dirty World, fun song, Bob Dylan on the lead. Rattled is Tom Petty singing. Last Night is Roy Orbison and Tom Petty. Oh, excuse me, Rattled is Jeff Lynne. Last Night is Tom Petty with Roy Orbison. You have Not Alone Anymore is Roy Orbison singing a beautiful song. Congratulations is Bob Dylan. Heading for the Light, George Harrison. Margarita, it's a group effort. Tweeter and the Monkey Man is Bob Dylan again. And then End of the Line, all the guys singing. It's just such a perfect album. And I was starting school at a very difficult private school in 8th grade. And I remember listening to this album, going home and putting it in my boombox and listening to this going to sleep. And some long nights studying connected to this album. So that, I would say this is probably the most important album of my teenage years, is the Traveling Wilburys Volume 1. If you haven't already, again, subscribe to Robert's channel. Go over there, take part in this contest. Let's get him up another 100 subscriptions. Robert, this was a fun one. I appreciate you putting it on. Good luck to everybody, and we will talk again soon. So take care, everybody.